welcome everyone. It's our March Coffee and EVs. It's just a few minutes after 7 here. We'll go ahead and get started. So this is our time to just talk about anything. Everyone brewed up a drink, hopefully, or brought your drink, and we'll just talk about EVs and anything else that comes up. I know one thing I did want to talk about first was the poll that went out about a in-person get-together sometime later this year. And I know James put that together and sent that out to everybody. And I think we've got a few results back. So James, I don't know if you want to tell us what you've got back so far.
Sure. Let me see if I can share this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So far we've had 10 respondents, and pretty much got a good bit of feedback to go on. Obviously, with question 1, everyone across the board pretty much said restrooms were vitally important, and I can understand that after, theoretically, if we're meeting kind of towards the middle of the state, after a couple hours of driving, you're definitely gonna want to need it. But also, obviously, nearby electric vehicle charging, and being that we might try and make this a picnic as well, having actual covered picnic areas and all that. But of course, pretty much all the places that were suggested, or folks suggested as well, had good scenic views and some hiking trails and stuff. So I feel like once we flesh things out, even if we don't have like a formal hike or something like that, there'll be plenty of time in the day for, if folks want to split off afterwards and do that, they can do that for sure. But of the locations that were initially put out there, it looked like the majority of votes said Stonewall Resort State Park. And so I only started looking at this today, but I'm going to take a deeper dive into that one in particular, and Sutton Lake, since it came up second, to try and see where and what and the logistics of getting something set up. And then in the write-in responses, Hawk's Nest was intriguing. And then, we've had one previous event on the Panhandle with the Black Dog Coffee, and then again, someone highlighted that Tiger Lake and Stonewall were very centrally located, and given that a large group of folks that responded would be coming from, say, the Charleston area and thereabouts, and a handful of us were coming from the Eastern Panhandle. Well, less than a handful of us are coming from the Eastern Panhandle. That seems pretty reasonable to try and meet up in the middle of the state. And it was a 50-50 split between May and June being ideal. So we'll try and look at lining it up around there, and possibly doing it in May where it's a little more, a little sooner, where the spring weather's still hitting and not heating up too much. And then clearly people are interested in eating, because there was great enthusiasm with the picnic idea. And then down here you see other things people were interested in were hiking, sightseeing, and then by workshops and talks. I didn't know if that would be from within or us looking to have someone come and speak about a certain topic, solar or whatnot. But since most of you responded, or most that responded to this, we're interested in that. Anyone that responded, if you want to say, go ahead and, either follow up with an email to me, or if you feel like talking about it on the call, let me know your thoughts on what do you envision a talk to be. And then, of course, we'll definitely have some game and activities set aside for it. I might even be able to scrounge up some kind of door prizes or something for those in attendance. But yeah, if anyone wants to speak now on the on question 7 on workshops and talks, feel free. If not, we can keep moving through the data.
One of the things is that Stonewall is a very expensive place to stay. And if this is going to be just a one day and go back, you might have a lot of stuff crammed into there. If I leave here at 8, I'm not going to get there till 10. And if you have a picnic lunch and a hike and a talk, that's pretty much not going to have much time for games. If you have games, you don't have time for a hike. So now, if you want people to, what do people think? Would you like to stay overnight? Can we maybe try to get, instead of $200 a night, a better rate for us, and just spend the overnight, eat breakfast together, and go home? What do people think?
That'd be something I'd, personally,
Depends on what day it is, but for me, it would probably just be a one-day event down and back in the same day. But if there's interest in trying to stay overnight and having some folks wanting to do that, then yeah, certainly.
I see, that was Stonewall you mentioned. Let me see real quick. Okay, yeah.
Hey, is there any way you can blow that up? I can barely see it.
Is this any better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, you can blow it up a little bit more.
Yeah, wider.
Did that do anything to it?
Some. There's a lot of white space to the side.
Yeah, I can't quite pull that off, I don't think.
Okay.
I can
Alright.
at least read it now. I couldn't read it before.
And then thanks to those that said that they'd be interested in helping plan the event. I'll be reaching out, if when we get to that point, if we need a little extra help. And then kept the names and the email addresses private. But this is good data to go on, and I'm going to keep the poll open and send it out one more time over the email in order to see if we can get a few more data points. And then I'd say, since we're entering April shortly, before the next meeting, I'll try and take a deep dive and seeing on the logistics side what we can get together and present then, so I can get your feedback live on, does this sound like the right,
And this was
going down the right track and all that.
This is sent out by the Google Group mailing list.
Yes, sir.
And that's 180 people at least. And it's interesting, you only have 10. Nobody would look at that, but those other people are probably not interested in going. I bet you most of those 10 people are on this call. I certainly filled mine out, but I don't know why we can't get more people either to come to this event. They're probably not going to drive all the way from Huntington for an in-person event if they don't even come to any of the coffee and EVs. I'm just wondering how we can get more interest. I know this is trying to generate interest, and I support that completely. But I would love to see you get 30 or 45 response instead of 10.
Yeah, I didn't reply, but I would like to go. So
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll send it out again just so folks that are on the call and might have missed it, might have caught your spam folder. You can respond, and that way I can have you as an interested party to where you can get the invitation and all that, the calendar details and whatnot when we get it set up.
John, did you have something?
Hey, what about putting that out on the Facebook page?
I have.
Putting the link.
I have, and I'll repost it, but it was on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay, I'll look for it and try to pin it to the top. They changed the way things pin in Facebook. They don't stay on the very top anymore.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we can put it out there, and I'll share it on our Blue Sky, which doesn't have a lot of folks on it, and LinkedIn. But that way we can try to generate a little bit more interest. The only comment about the dates is, I guess we'll need to, if we're talking about May, June, is we also got Memorial Day there. So we'll have to keep that in mind and, keep a little ways away from that.
Yes, sir.
The other thing with those summer dates is summer vacations. So is will affect people.
Yeah, I would say try to
Scott,
keep
go
it
ahead.
in May. I was going to say keep it in May. As far as reaching people, I think maybe it'd be good the leadership and whoever else would like to, like James, look at the Google group list that we've got and see how many people we know on a personal basis that we could just text them and just say, reminder, this went out at such and such time. Please consider answering it. Even if you don't want to go to it, at least put your input in.
Mm-hmm. And someone had asked what could we do to get people more engaged, and the only thing that I initially thought might have created bias to not responding to this, if they did see it, is that, well, yes, most of the spots we've picked are in the more central of the state to get those of us that are readily and more active to meet up in the middle. I do acknowledge that, just from general conversation with Robert, it seems like most of our folks, the majority of our folks are over, either in the far west of the state or towards Charleston and say some and a good bit in like the Morgantown and the northern Panhandle area. So, maybe if, depending on how this event turns out, maybe if we set up a separate one that was more, say an hour drive away instead of 2 or 2.5, for a lot of folks. Speaking as someone that goes EV crazy and drives all over anyway, I'd be willing to drive, 3.5, 4 hours to go hang out with y'all, but, I acknowledge that's not for everybody.
I will say this: back when we were opening the charging stations at various state parks, we had a couple of rallies that 12 to 15 people showed up for, and several of us stayed overnight. And man, those turned out to be really pleasant. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can do that again. Larry, you were at a couple of them, weren't you?
Yes, yeah. And if I possibly can, I'll go to the event at Stonewall or wherever it is.
I'm planning on going. I'm looking at May. If you pick May, I would stay away from Mother's Day weekend unless you're going to bring your wife and kids along.
That's a good point too.
And then I'm looking. Then if you go the 24th, you're getting possibly close to Memorial Day, which is, I guess, the 30th. Memorial Day is actually the 26th. So I think you're almost restricted to the 17th or the 3rd. And Rick's got a car show going on the 3rd. I've got on my calendar in Huntington, I guess it is, right? Or Barboursville.
Yeah, and John had his hand up first. I'll let him go, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
I was just going to say, I just pulled up the calendar for the schedule for the Multicultural Festival up here. This year it won't be at the Parkersburg State Park because they're building a new pavilion. It's going to be I found out it's going to be at Belpre, and that's that weekend is the 21st is Friday, 22nd and 23rd. So if we want to do that, if we want to do that event, then we'll need to schedule around it.
Is that in June or May?
June. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, and we could go the weekend after Memorial Day too. So you could be like June 7th. So you're just a hair out of May before it gets into big time summer vacation time. All right. Well, that gives us some ideas. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, if you went to one of the further away places but decided to stay overnight, like if you went down near John, and we all were able to charge and take lots of pictures at the brand new station near Tamarack, there's parks down there near Beckley where we could get a room for a lot less money than the $240 a night at the resort. And if you're going to stay 2 nights or stay overnight, then the distance is not nearly as much. I mean, I'm 2.5 hours from Beckley, or 2.25 even. I could go down to the southern part of the state as well. Eastern Panhandle will be tough, but we don't have to be central if the trade-off is that we could get a room for a lot cheaper.
$240 a night. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes.
How much is the southern what's that park down there south of near Athens?
Pipestem.
Pipestem.
Pipestem's pretty well booked in the summer, I think, especially the fall. But yeah, I don't know what the rates are. Somebody'd have to look it up.
Well, since we kind of have a few dates, kind of more specific dates targeted, I'll add a question, or I'll send out another kind of poll with those specific dates, just so I can get to the folks that have responded to this or will respond, say in the next week or so. I'll send out a poll with just those dates, so I can get a head count on what works best for each individual member. So we can try and at least, if I can't get, say, 15 out of 15 on one day, maybe I can get 12 out of 15. And do there.
Do we need to talk about renting a space? Like a picnic shelter or something?
I think that was our plan, was we would rent a pavilion, picnic shelter kind of thing at whatever park we were going to go to.
Hope they're not $500 an hour.
I would like to throw in that I'm thinking seriously about having an event here at our farm in southern West Virginia in Sandstone, beginning of August, after we break 100,000 kilowatt hours production on our solar. I've talked to Taylor about it and invite you guys. But anyway, it might be something to do in the southern part of the state in case you want to move that event up further north.
Yeah, that's an idea too. We could split it into a couple different events. All right. Any other comments, questions, suggestions about the event?
Just a big thank you to James for doing all that work. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Well, it's my pleasure, folks. I'm all about bringing folks together, so let's try and do it.
So maybe your next test, you might include costs. How much does it stay if you're going to stay overnight? How much does it cost? How much does it cost to rent a pavilion? Because man, Stonewall's outrageous. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I hope our Governor Morrissey doesn't take a notion to get rid of the charging at state parks, following a national example, but after Marty's work.
That would be sad.
Yeah.
I may also, I had a conversation recently that sort of ties into this with the, I think it's Calhoun County Commission. And they had some questions about EV charging, and they have a park apparently that's set up for like stargazing and camping, and they've got 1450 plugs at the park, and I encouraged them to get those on PlugShare, and we talked about some of that stuff. So I could put a feeler out to them to see if maybe because they're trying to attract electric vehicles owners to come to Calhoun County. That was the reason for the discussion. And there's nothing in Calhoun County as far as charging is currently listed on PlugShare. But although they do have some options, they just haven't listed. I could talk to them and say, hey, if you're interested in attracting electric vehicles, would you like to host the WVEAA event if they would be willing to throw in some things?
How many of the people here have portable EVSC in their garage? Mine's portable. Mine's plug-in. How many are hardwired? How many of you are plug-in?
Well, you want to do a show of hands for plugged in?
Yeah,
Mine's
we
plugged
should-
in.
Okay, so everybody who has a portable that could charge at a 1450, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Actually, I have two
Yeah.
of them.
All right, so it looks like most people could charge on a portable, just on a plug.
Mine's a 650, but I have an adapter.
All right, cool. Well, we'll keep exploring some of these options and see if we can nail it down a bit more.
I don't even remember how to get to Calhoun County.
I had to pull out the map. I knew it was down in that area. I wasn't sure exactly where it was. And I don't know what kind of accommodations they've got either, so that might be a problem if they don't have like cabins or something.
From back when the kids were in school and we'd want to know where the various counties that were going to be closed because of snow, etc. I keep a county map of West Virginia on my desktop of my computer. I can send it to anybody that like it.
I use Google Maps and said, "Hey, where's Calhoun County?"
Well, it's just there when I open up my computer and it's there.
Okay.
You can't get there from here. You go to Ripley and hang a right, and you go past Spencer. Golly, where you go up to
79.
Big Otter, and you turn.
Well,
You can go up 79 and hit 119, and it goes through Calhoun County. But Calhoun County is kind of long in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
When you look at it on the map.
So I assume this county thing is near Grantsville, right? So you'd go 60 miles up 79, and then it looks like another 40 or 50 miles up to Grantsville. Wow, it's really out there. I'd need it. Some of us would need plugs when we got there.
Yeah, you have to like see if you could reserve all the 1450s.
I know I can. I had a office that I took care of there up until last year when I stopped doing work for them. Go out to Grantsville and back on a single charge, even in my old Model 3. So.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, if nothing else about the event, so let's shift gears. And what kind of other announcements, events coming up? Let's say, Rick, I think you have an event, couple events, or at least one event. So what do you got coming up?
You're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute, Rick.
Yeah, if Diane's still on the call, she may want to talk about all the work she did for the DEAM event. I can't see on my thing whether she left or is on the second page.
I'm scrolling down through. I don't see her.
She may have left. Well, as you know, I just don't have the ability to be city captain again. So she stepped up and Robert connected her with me. She said she'd be happy to do it. So our original idea was to do what we did for DEED, Drive Electric Earth Day last year, but she couldn't do it. Diane said, I'll be happy to run it, but I can't be there. Well, that's not going to work too well. So we decided that maybe, and then we heard, and Marty and I found out today, Marshall bought a F-150 Lightning, never even asked us or anything about it or whatever. It was just a crazy situation. They're putting in $300,000 worth of charging equipment at Marshall and didn't ask Marty or me whether they're putting in a DC fast charge at the medical center and then one on Marshall's campus as well. But my point was that Diane said she had a friend who works at the Wild Ramp, and they have what they call Stinkfest in the spring, and they have 1,000 visitors.
Okay.
And they said, we would be very happy to have you come. We won't charge you as a vendor. Just come because you're not vending anything. Come and display your cars, and we'll rope off 4 to 6 places as however many you need, and you'll have 1,000 people wandering through that day. So we thought that was a good idea. Diane and I did, and I sent out a save the date to everybody, but I gave kind of a teaser, but that's going to be the 29th of April, which is still within April, which is Drive Electric Earth Month. And I went ahead and and Diane was behind and everything. I went ahead and had all the swag sent to me. It hasn't arrived yet, but I'll give that to her. And but they were very nice about it. The second event I found out about by going to get a haircut at the barber shop, and there was a sign up for the 92nd Airborne Association is having a car show in Barbersville on the 3rd of May, rain date the 10th. So I called up Sean, the commander, and he was so excited about it. I'm really not seeing. He said, electric vehicles are the future. Please, we won't charge you a penny. Bring as many EVs as you can. We'll put you all together. And so these people need to learn about EVs. So I was really excited about that. So then I called the actual event organizer, John, and he also was very enthusiastic. And Sean called me back last week about a car show that's going to be in Point Pleasant. And did we, the WVEAA, want to come to that car show also? So it's just getting a lot of, and remember the one we had, some of you came to the one that we had right here by the Human Being coffee shop in Barbersville. That was really a lot of fun. A lot of people came by and asked questions. Nathan brought his Tesla, and there was an F-150 Lightning. Anyway, there's been more and more events that kind of want us to be involved, but we can't spread our people too thin. And I've told people you don't have to stay the whole 5 hours at Stinkfest or the whole 5 hours of in Barbersville either. But I'll send out more info about that right away. But I'm trying not to jump on Diane's toes. She's the city captain, and she needs to send out the invites. I may give her some suggestions of what to say, but that'll be on the 29th of April.
All right, great. So we've got a couple of good events coming up down in the Charleston, Huntington area.
It's the 82nd Airborne.
Yes.
You've got that stuck in your head. It's 92nd. It's the 82nd.
Oh, 82nd. Yeah, I apologize. This brings into something that I was going to bring up, and I'll just throw it out and see what everybody thinks. When I was secretary, I had a spreadsheet of all of our, quote, members way back when we were charging. Does that spreadsheet still exist? And here's my reason for asking. If we're going to have all these invites, maybe now, 5 years later, some dealers will want to bring their vehicles. But I don't have an email address for somebody at each of those dealerships. And I was wondering if we ought to take on as a little goal of the next week or so, everybody pick 2 or 3 dealerships that are the nearest to you that you think sell EVs and send me their regular address, and then I would write a letter that have Robert send out over his signature, say, would you please allow us to have an email address for your dealership, and we'll just let you know of things that are happening, and if it's a benefit to you, come and help us. If it's not a benefit, don't do it. And then we could create on that same spreadsheet of members, we could have a section which was dealerships within the state of West Virginia that we want to just keep informed of when we're having something like this. Because I can't drive around to Moses and then to Dutch Miller and then to Suburban and Riverside, all of these different places, and yet I don't have email addresses for any of them. Is that a good idea, or is it just a waste of time?
I think it's worthy.
I mean, it's certainly something we could do, and we do have still have that spreadsheet, Rick. It's still out there on the Google Drive. I think historically it's been tough to get the dealers to participate, but maybe we could resurrect that and see if there's more interest now in the dealer community, that there are more EVs out there from different OEMs.
And with the new administration in Washington, that interest may go down again. They may say, we won.
Maybe we can invite someone from Thornhill to talk about their charging success.
Oh, was that the one where it's like $200 an hour or something?
Yeah. That's
200 an hour.
John, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to caution. Do we want to? I don't know if we want to have a rule, but I know with like the Multicultural Festival, the ones last year we didn't get any bring any in, but the year before we had them in, and they brought the cars, left them, and locked them up. So I think it could really be to their benefit to sell vehicles, but I think they ought to have a salesman there that can talk more about their information if it's something we want to do that way. But really the downfall, people were not really happy that they couldn't open the doors on the cars.
So we've done that in the past. Sometimes they send the most junior, incompetent sales guy, and sometimes they send somebody that really likes EVs.
But it's also going to be a big benefit to that salesperson if they don't know anything to be able to spend the day with us.
Right. You'd think so. But we've had events, like there was one in Martinsburg we had where the Volvo guys brought a couple cars and they parked it way at the other end of the parking lot and never came over and talked to anybody. And they sat there for 2 or 3 hours and then they left.
I mentioned it to Moses Auto Mall this last week, and but the only cars they have to bring are $104,000 Hummers. I don't think the people that go to Stinkfest are really interested in buying $104,000. I'm not interested in a $104,000 Hummer. So, I don't think they think this is going to help them sell them at all.
Well, Rick, I thought you struck gold at the Drive Electric last April because Moses brought the Lexus, the BMW, Cadillac Lyric, and those salespeople were engaged and knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, and all of those people came to my talk that I gave there. That Larry stopped in and was a big help, and Curtis was there for a little while and took a test drive but left. But they had 14 of their salesmen attend my talk, including Jason Moses, and they were nice also when they brought the vehicles to Deed a year ago.
Yeah, and up here in Martinsburg, I mean, that first year, Marty, we did have a couple dealers or one dealership send their vehicles. But since then, it's like I can't get them to even send a salesperson at all. I have to stop in and pick the vehicle up myself and, just park it and then take it back afterwards. They won't send anybody to represent them or talk to people. So but at least unlike John's event, the vehicle was open, but I couldn't let anybody drive it for insurance and liability reasons. So it just sat there, but at least, they let me have one.
Yeah. I was going to say Moses here in Charleston, I think would be receptive. They've got Nissan dealership and then also several others. And I was going to bring up one thing. Thursday, I went to lunch with Susan, and I noticed at the outlet out on Corridor G, they had a Tesla. So on the way back after lunch, I stopped, and the guy was like, "Oh, driving up here with a Tesla, need another one." I don't know about this one, but anyway, I was actually somewhat helpful to him and so forth. So if anybody's looking for a 2018 with about 73,000 miles for a little under 22,000, they've got one out there.
Was it on fire or not?
Was it what? No, it was not on fire.
Oh, all right, good. Marty, do you want to tell them a little bit about the discussion we had earlier today, the 7-page memo?
Oh, yeah. Did anyone ever read 1984?
Yeah.
Where they had the language thing where
Winston
it wasn't bad, it was ungood and all that. So there's 7 pages of words not allowed to be used by anybody that receives federal money anymore. And the word clean is one of them.
We had to change the name of the organization.
The Clean City. So and so my best suggestion was double undirty Clinton cities. But we didn't pick that one. It's now it's the Mountain State Advanced Transportation Coalition.
But you can't use clean, you can't use green, you can't use progressive, you can't use alternate, you can't use electric at all. Now, the other thing they talked about briefly, they wanted to get some sponsorships. And so I'm going to push hard to get, even at a small financial amount, the Electric Vehicle Association to sponsor an electrification coalition. So then on all the advertising, our name doesn't say that, but it doesn't mean that our sponsor's name can't say electric vehicle. And so
we kick in $10 and it says electric vehicle. Okay. That's good. That's good. I like that.
Sorry, who is limiting the words? I didn't catch who the memo came from.
President
and
Trump.
state government, both of them.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
Most
is
of
it-
the state institutions.
the federal government has a list of 7 pages of censored words that can't be used in any federal publication. Even if the definition, like you can't say, well, we had a diverse group of technologies go into this new study. That paper will be shredded if it uses the word diverse in
Oh my God.
any definition of it. So it's just like 1984.
Can we use Pig Latin?
No, we didn't think of that.
Yeah, we
Mark
didn't.
and I,
We didn't
would've-
think of. We didn't think of that, but
We're not as smart as you.
that's what we. The one that the group agreed to this morning was Mountain State Advanced Transportation Coalition.
Ah,
So
Wow.
They were even finding words that sounded, the first letter sounds like a different letter, like electric sounds like L, starts with L. And what was the other one, Marty? They said it sounded, it was an E, and you could just say that, and people would pronounce the acronym saying ill. So
are you all searching for some federal funding? Is that the
well,
concern?
the Clean Cities has been funded for 30 some years.
Marty and I are the state
Program.
holders committee.
So
Yeah.
they apparently still have a source of funding if they change their name. And
Wow.
every subgroup has to change their name. It's just absolutely. And there was one guy in the group there who had been laid off yesterday from the federal government. He'd been doged.
Wow.
So anyway, that's the story. But they talk about wanting to do more events, and there was somebody there from AEP, and AEP is willing to kick in to help with those events. So maybe we can get AEP on board with these events in Huntington, and they also, well, they won't come to Martinsburg, but
And John Allen, the guy who you're supposed to give the next Rural Reimagine vehicle, he was on the group also. Who's supposed to get that from you up in Morgantown?
oh, well, I'm like out of it. I don't know what is
Anyway,
going
he
on.
was at the meeting.
I'm like left out now, so I'm not gonna.
So anyway,
Then-
the Clean Cities, and that was Kelly Bragg, who was so helpful to us for many years. And the new Kelly works at Marshall. Her name's Amy White, and she seems to be wanting to hold events and involve us in those events when we can help her. And I think that'll work out okay.
And
But
it's not just EV terminology. She's the director of sustainability, and they have all these composting projects and green space for the kids and the gardens that the students can actually grow while they're there for the semester. And all of this is getting, she has to be careful. I can't say this word. I think they can't call it cow manure anymore. They have to use another shorter word.
Yeah, I've got a shorter word for it, but
Yeah.
we won't go there.
we don't want to put that on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll move along to just some EV news. We're about 20 minutes left here. Anybody got anything they want to bring up going on? Questions from anyone in the audience? Any issues, charging, etc.? The floor is yours.
A quick question. Has anybody here, do you watch the YouTube channel called Future Raza? Interesting guy.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And he had an interesting one that just came out, and that was about Toyota, who said that Toyota was developing a solid state battery and it would be ready in 12 months. And he said, now you got to think about this. Why did they do that? We know they've published that every year for the last 12 years so that people won't buy an EV this year, thinking that if they wait till next year, it'll be better. It's like what we did with the Tesla. Nobody bought Ioniqs last year because this 25 has the NACS port. So nobody bought a CCS port last year. Well, he said this is what Toyota was doing. and it's written by a person whose name is like Linda M. Never gives a last name, never gives her credentials. These articles were all written by the same person, and it's all FUD just to try to get people, don't buy an EV, wait till next year. They're hoping it'll die. And I thought that was very fascinating. If you get a chance, go look up Future Raza.
Harold, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I have a completely different question. Just wanted to know if anybody in the audience has a Chevy Equinox EV. And from the
No,
silence,
but they look like nice cars. I've seen them on the road.
Okay. There was just basically two questions. It looks like it comes, the 2025 looks like it comes with two eye hooks or tow bars or whatever. And I was just wondering why. And then the second thing is that my friend recently got one and they had 67 miles on it. And the warning signs came up for the 12-volt battery, the high voltage battery, et cetera, et cetera. They ended up taking it into the service shop. They tested everything and said everything was okay. So just wanted to know if anybody had one of those cars. But looks like no one has it, so I'll leave it back to you, Robert.
I did.
Go ahead,
I
Josh.
talked to somebody who was driving one, ran into them at a charging station. They loved it, but I don't know how many miles they had on it, but they loved it so far. And
my friend loves their. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Lots of
I'm
people
done.
have their hands raised.
John, I think you had yours up first.
I was just waiting for Harold to be done. I know, John, you wanted to talk about the drive elect. I mean, the rural reimagine. Last time, you didn't get to.
Yeah, well, I don't have too much to say about it. I just don't know how long the project's going to last. I mean, if it gets cut, the insurance is a big cost. That I don't know if Rick has any insight on it, but we have a new coordinator who's feeling his way through it, and he just, I don't know whether he's following the strict rules, but I don't even know who has the car now, and everybody in our area south, there's really no applicants, so it's heading north, and so I'm going to be kind of out of the picture for a while at least.
Well, I've lost track of the Chevy Bolt also.
Yeah,
he's been passed from person to person, but hasn't kept me in.
Yeah, Sci-Fi Sue isn't really keeping us in the loop, and I haven't pestered him about it. I just, they have regulations about not giving out names, and maybe he's following that. I don't know, but I have no idea where the ID4 is that I was taking care of.
Linda, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there, Charleston has a green team and so does Morgantown, and these are volunteer groups. And as the events kind of come together, if you want to share them, I can share it with our group. I'm on the Charleston green team, and also the West Virginia Environmental Council. I'm on the board there. So I think those would be two good audiences for the work we're doing here. And, these are folks, I brought my Tesla to the annual meeting of the Environmental Council last year, and people were really interested in having a look at it. So throwing that out there.
No, that's great, Linda.
Can you put the list and the dates up on the list server and the Google's server, and then we'll know about it and be able to talk about it at the next meeting?
Well, I think Linda's asking if when we have events, she can publicize it to those groups.
Right. But I can do the reverse too. If I can let you all know when they're doing something interesting. So
yeah, and if you've got an event where you would like to have, or you think electric vehicles could be a part of that event, then let us know, and we can see if we can get volunteers to show up with vehicles and speak about this.
Okay, great. Yeah, the Environmental Council's annual meeting is usually at Tiger Lake State Park. And it's in September this year, I believe. So I'll share that with everybody.
Okay. And Linda, were you on when Rick announced the couple or talked about the couple events he's got coming up?
I don't think so.
Right. Well, Rick's going to be sending a couple events out soon. They're coming up. Was it April 29th and May 3rd, Rick?
Okay, yeah, I did hear you chatting about those, but if you have details, I can share them.
Yeah. Well, you're on our list, right, Linda? So if we send stuff out on the Google group, you'll get a copy of that.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, and feel free to share it with far and wide.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Hey, Harold had his hand up again.
Oh no, I decided not to ask.
Oh, well, speak up, please. Don't be shy.
Well, it was just, I know you guys were talking earlier about a dealership that only had like the Hummers to bring to an event. We've had events down in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we've had some Hummers and other and Silverados, and people were excited about looking at them. I don't know if they could buy them, but they were excited to see it. So I guess if the dealership is willing to bring it and have it open, I think that would be a good thing. But if they just lock it up and all, it probably wouldn't be a good thing. So that's the only thing I wanted to say. Back to you guys.
That's a nice point of view. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and you can look at it like a lot of when people go into a dealership to look at a Corvette, they're probably not going to buy the Corvette, but it's the halo car for that brand, and they'll look at the Corvette, then they buy a Cavalier. So I mean, that's sort of the concept is you just get people in and see it, and then they probably will buy something else, but it just generates excitement.
I had my hand up to sort of answer Harold's question. I'll
Okay.
put it back down again. But the Hyundai Ioniq 5, ever since it came out, has had problems with what's called the ICCU, which is the conversion of the high voltage to keep the 12 volt. So my 12 volt died once, and I had been there for the recalls twice, and they said, your ICCU is fine. And I actually bought a new battery, which was under warranty, didn't cost me anything. So then 2 weeks ago, and I think I've been under the weather because I fell and broke some ribs. But 2 weeks ago, I was driving somewhere, and then all of a sudden the big warning came up, check your electrical power system. Well, I know I can't check the high voltage, and it had a picture of a low voltage battery, and that's what it was. I went into limp mode and went home. I had to have my car towed to Joe Holland because the one here, Hyundai, does not service electric vehicles. And it was the ICCU that had broken, which is probably what broke on the Chevy Equinox also. Well, they're back ordered, so I'm not going to. The first it can possibly be there is next Monday, which is three and a half weeks from when I had it towed in. So my wife's been driving me everywhere, except that nobody had the Volkswagen next. So when it came out of the repair shop for the Rural Reimagined, Zi-Fi said, Rick, I don't have anybody this week. Why don't you just drive it as much as you want to, which is not going to be much, 5 miles here and there. So I have a car because I'm using the Rural Reimagined Volkswagen.
Right.
But I don't know. But I've saved Joe Holland, $50 a day for the last 30 days. So, I don't even know it'll be in next week. Somebody else on one of the forums said their car was in for 3 months waiting for the ICCU.
Yeah, you mentioned that, Rick. I've seen multiple threads on Reddit about Kia and Hyundais with that ICCU problem. So yeah, it's kind of a widespread issue. Hopefully, with just some of the early model years, and hopefully they've got a fix for the later years. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, Justin Fisher, who works for Car Edge online, but lives in Bluefield, and his Ioniq 5 has been in the Beckley dealership for a couple months. I don't know whether he's gotten it out yet or not. Same problem.
We've had multiple problems with our son's Chevy Bolt, and they had it for a month. We were ready to fill out a lemon law request. It's the rule is 30 days. If it's still under warranty and it's 30 days, they got to give you your money back.
As I hear all, go ahead, John.
How old is the car? I mean, I can't do that on mine. It's a 23. I can't get a lemon law because it hold it more than 30 days. I don't think. I mean,
no. If it's still under warranty, you can under West Virginia law. If they can't repair it, if they make 3 attempts to repair it, and fail, or if they hold it for 30 days, then you can start eliminate all proceedings. But they fixed my son's car in 32 days or something. So
one of the problems that all the EV manufacturers, and I'm sure Tesla does too, they don't break very often. And this ICCU thing, they think they fixed in 2025, but they don't have a way of diagnosing it. So I have no idea how many of these to make. And once they make them and everybody's got their ones fixed, they're stuck with all it. So they're only kind of making them as they need them. And I said, I think you'd have one. I said to Joe Holland, why don't you have one and then just get that replaced? He said, we can't even do that. If we had one and they needed it in Beckley, we'd have to ship it to Beckley. So these are being shipped all over the United States. The one that I'm hopefully getting, maybe in Kansas City right now, who knows? But they're not making a whole lot of replacement parts because they really don't break that often. They can't take that loss.
And Larry, you had your hand up.
Well, Rick had mentioned the low turnout for the IRA online EVs and coffee. There are people that don't want to do that but would do in-person EVs and coffee. So I kind of wonder if there's might be some interest in going back and as weather breaks here and having one at Panera Bread there, and like we have in the past in Taze Valley.
Well, let's do one next month sometime. Pick a weekend, Larry.
Mike Beam indicated he might come. He would try to come if he could, and I know there's other people would probably come too.
And I have it penciled in on my calendar for that 29th, but it depends on the weather, which I can't check until tomorrow or Thursday at the earliest. I can get a 10-day forecast, and we don't want to have it if it's going to be rainy or cold. But yeah, we're hoping we'll have one in March as well as April, and then through to September, the last Saturday of every month. There's been some of those that we had only 3 or 4 people, but some that we had 8 or 10.
Okay, so the 29th, the last Saturday of this month?
Last Saturday of the month, just like
Let's
before.
hope we can make it.
What time? 10 o'clock or what?
I think we did 9 to 10 with hangover till 10:30. I thought it was that, but we haven't set a time yet or send it out on a Google group. So,
well, John, if you'd like to make it and you want it to be a little bit later, I mean, they might be able to.
Yeah, you'd set it all for me and I wouldn't make it, so don't want to do that.
I also wanted to mention something to follow up to Larry's comment. We've got our core group that generally shows up for these coffee and EVs, but I will say that the recordings that I post on YouTube for these meetings, the views on those, which I would presume are people, mostly probably people who weren't here in this meeting, they average, I see, like, I'm just looking back over the last several, like 33, 23, 19, 49 views on some of those. So
that's not bad.
So there are some other people looking at them that maybe they just can't attend in the evening or whatever, but some folks do go back and look at them.
All you can see is the count, not the names?
Yeah, just a count.
That's typical. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's good to hear.
Well, I'll put this plea out there to those people watching. if you're willing to come to Parkersburg and you want to do EVs, cars, and coffee, please reach out to me through the email group or on Facebook. Because I would like to do one up here, but right now I've only got one other person in Parkersburg, and it matters whether or not he's working shift work.
Well, maybe Larry and I can come up.
Yeah.
We'd like to take road trips.
Yeah, tell us when you want to do it, John, and I might come as well if I'm available.
Well, let me ask Rick this. When you started doing them with Panera, did you get permission from them or
I actually went in and told them we were coming and they have lots of honey buns or something. But I did that because some of the other places won't let us, like Home Depot will not let us do one in their parking lot. But Panera's never given us a problem, and we don't demand that they block off spaces, and we're not given rides, so there's no liability especially. But Panera was just kind of a common place between the Huntington and the Charleston people, and sometimes it was fairly well attended. And one actually, we had an open laptop and we had people elsewhere that were talking to us about the meeting.
Panera as a company likes to be a community meeting spot. I noticed that for the one out on South Ridge, and I've been to a couple of the ones out at Taste Valley, and I'm very impressed with them.
And I've done a couple here in Martinsburg at Panera, and we didn't ask permission or anything. It's just, I think it's like any group saying, "Hey, you want to all go to Panera or McDonald's or wherever? And we're just going to meet up." As long as you're not giving rides or putting up signage or anything that might create problems for them, I don't think they care to control it.
And just a thought on the let's say we're doing this on the 10 o'clock on the 29th, or somebody needs to put a notice out on that. But if we had a list of some of the activities that are coming up that we on a card or something that we could pass out, be a way to let some other people know about it.
And that reminded me of something John just said notify me. I can memorize the WVEAA Google group address, but I don't know. There are people that get those that don't have any way of getting in touch with any of the rest. They don't have you can't look at that and find everyone's email address, can you, Robert?
No.
No, but if they would put a thing out there on the group, send a message to the group and address it to me, I'll get it because I get those emails. So,
well, one thing I could do, the website address, I'm pretty sure I have that in the beginning of the videos. But I could actually put our email address on there too.
But Robert, did you put out the officers' email addresses to everybody in the Google group since they were elected in January? Have you sent that out? Here's how to contact our secretary, our treasurer, our vice president. That might be something.
I could. I don't generally. They're our personal email addresses, so I don't generally like to hand those out just to the public. I will use. I do have a generic email address for the group, so I have an email address for WVEAA that we can publicize. That's not the Google group, because you have to be approved before you can post anything to the Google group. You have to be a member before that will work for you. But I do have a driveelectric@gmail.com email address for us.
And if I wanted to use the Google group but send something to John, what do I just say? Attention, John Ayers. How does he know that it's even addressed?
You would have to send it. You'd send it to the main group and say, "Hey, this is messages for John Ayers." If you want to use
right?
But everybody has to see it. Or you could say, "Hey, John Ayers, please contact me at my email address," and do it that way. But generally, we don't share people's personal email addresses around.
Right.
Yeah, I would rather not have. I get enough stuff as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got horribly spammed a couple of months ago. Somebody took $2,000 out of my bank account and flooded my email with thousands of new subscriptions. And I had to get a really good spam filter to get rid of it all. But somebody could take a notion, doesn't like electric cars, and spam people. It's really not a good idea to post your own addresses.
What I've done to advertise the group is I've got business cards with WVEAA on it and a little bit about electric vehicles and our emblem. And it's got the website. And then I mentioned to the people there's a private Facebook group and a Google group that they can, go to the website and get into that, as far as asked to be admitted. And that's the way I advertise it when people are interested in the EVs.
Well, we talked about upcoming events. I do have an events page on the website, and I have our regular recurring meetings. And if we have special events, once we've nailed down date, time, and where the event is, I'll put those out here too.
Are we agreed at 10 o'clock on the 29th for face-to-face at Panero's? Just add that, Robert.
I can.
Fair.
But we do need to still send it out on the group.
Yes.
So I will add it here, but I want Rick's events and the dates and times and locations, so I can add those here as well. For the April 29th and May 3rd.
Well, it's 8 o'clock.
Yep, it is right at 8 o'clock. So any last minute comments,
Harold,
questions, issues?
And everyone else, thank you very much for coming. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Yep. Good to see
All
everybody.
right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Cheers,
Thanks.
everybody.